Hello guys, in this video I'll show you what it is virtual threads and how to use it in Java. That is something exists in Java 19 and you have to install it. So this video is more like a kickoff overview meeting. You can start watching and see what it is, from my experience what I did. I'm sharing this with you and hope you will go and investigate for yourself. I will give you some code examples and a really quick overview and some thoughts on it. Okay, enjoy. Okay, let's go jump to the code. I created some code here that I am working on. That's like a Spring Boot application. You see there's a component and the code is very simple. In this case, I'll just get rid of all that. So the code is simple. There is a scheduled annotation that runs this task every 1 second with fixed rate. And then I use executor to run some task inside. And this task takes 1 minute to run. So imagine this one, the schedule run this task every 1 second, and each task will be executed and run for 1 minute. You can imagine that there will be many tasks running because it's taking 1 minute to run, and every new task like that will be created every second or so. Right. The interesting part of this is like classical way to schedule task. The use case is when you really need to create many tasks every second that are running for some time. You can come up with use cases yourself, depending on your business, what you're doing, right? But the executor, I played around with different executors, but in this specific video, we're covering virtual threads. Imagine that we have a scenario when we need to get everything from the machine and to have millions of threads if needed. Classical approach that existed before Java 19 is that having many threads is a bad idea, bad practice. So with these virtual threads, it's not a bad idea anymore for certain scenarios, but for certain maybe it is. But in this specific scenario, when we have like many threads, and these many threads are not CPU consumed threads, they basically, let's say, connected to some other services, waiting for connections, some input-output operations, something like that. You see, like that's a kind of real life scenarios that usually happens in web applications. That's why these new virtual threads are suitable for these scenarios, which is good. So we use this executor here and create new instances of virtual threads every second. So this is the scenario. I'm just giving you an idea how to create this. So if you ever wondered how to create virtual thread and what it's about, so now you already know a little bit. To create, there are some ways to do it, but one of these, in this specific case, when we're working with scheduler framework, is to use executor and execute. So or submit, in this case it execute, and we create new thread. But right now, let me run this and see what's happening. Right now, as you can see, let me zoom it for you. We're expecting to see some virtual threads inside because we're printing something here, right? This virtual thread, and the number. This number is basically incremented number of every new thread that is created. But you can imagine that one thread will work for 60 seconds, for 1 minute, and then it will disappear. A new thread will be created. So this number, it doesn't mean that many threads already existing in the system. It does mean, what it means is how many of them were created, right? So, and that's where we're coming to. Because you see, at some point you see this, okay, virtual thread, but here you see that actually there is a fork join pool, worker 1, and there is worker 3, 2. So what's going on under the hood is that actually this fork join pool is what is called platform thread that is handling all these virtual threads inside. And even though we see like a couple of workers working, but they actually handle already like hundreds of threads underneath right now. So this is how it works. And this is, imagine, you can look what's going on in your task, the thread ID or something like that. In this case, I just put some effort just to show you how it looks. Okay. So another part of what I want to show you is how to monitor all this. Usually how people monitor application and threads. They might use JDK, this mission control thing from Oracle. I prefer something different. I prefer Visual VM, like a classical approach, let's say. So let's click on this and we go to threads. And then we can see these workers, basically 3 of them that are handling our virtual threads. As you can see, we don't see the virtual threads themselves. That's kind of not cool because I believe this tool is not yet up to date or whatever. They cannot show it for us by some reason. Or maybe it will never show actually. Because imagine we might have like a millions of threads because those threads are light and we can run them in millions and that will be okay for our application. But as you can see, as you can see, we don't see them here. What we can do, we can probably like do this thread dump and see what's going on inside, and maybe we can get some information from there. I'm not sure. Or there is a better way. We can go and use this command. I'll show it to you. We can use this command gcmd and then this PID of process ID of the thread, in this case, which is 110499. Okay, and then JSON file is going to be file 3. I did experiment with it before, as you can see. And let's see what is inside. So this is a special command to dump things from the process, as you can guess. So let's see what is inside. And, this is what's happening. This is file 3. Let's go and search for something that shows the threads. You can investigate what is in this file, but in this specific case, you see, we see here the thread pro task executor. As you might guessed, actually, this thread per task executor is our executor that is responsible for creating virtual threads. Because this is a container after all, right? The way it's put here. It has all these threads, virtual threads are listed in there. If you can go and search for it, you'll find a lot of them. Because every second was created and it's taken 1 minute to execute, so there may be like quite a bit of them. Okay, so imagine if you have the tool that is able to analyze this without command line execution, without this cmd dump thing, then you can see all these virtual threads are there, right? So it's possible to see them. You just need to find a proper tool. And this is how to do it. Cloud-based tool that are able to monitor this. That's where you can analyze and see things. Let's just summarize what we said. What kind of advantages it brings to us to use virtual threads. First, you can run many of them, and it is best practice, and it is not a bad practice anymore. Second, well, because of the first, easy to deal with simple model, 1 thread per task. So it's kind of simplified model. The disadvantages are because there are many of them, we have to have tools to monitor and reason what's happening. And the advantage again, one may decide that, oh, you know what, I don't need to use React Java, let's say, or some reactive extension for certain scenarios. For sure, reactive programming, like tools like React Java, it could benefit itself from this model. And it brings more stuff on the table than just dealing with thread per se. At some point, it's kind of nice to model the flow of events in relation to threads, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of threads you use, the React Java still could be pretty useful tool. So if someone tells you that, you know what, we have virtual threads, so we don't need React Java, no, it's too simple to say this. Okay, so I hope it was helpful for you. What else I'll suggest is to go to this website and read this page. This is like official website about virtual threads, and I found this very structural and easy to read. It will save you time if you read this, other than go and throw some random resources like myself. Something is not covered on this page because it's not a full documentation. It just gives you the idea and what and where and how to use it, right? Another thing, and this will be the last thing. Let's because it's popular, right? To ask Chat AI to answer some of our questions. Let's say if you do refactoring for your application and you want to refactor everything to use virtual threads, what kind of steps would it involve? I asked this question before and I like how it answered. If we want to replace Java threads to virtual, what are the things to, what are the steps? Let's see. To replace Java threads with virtual threads, the following steps can be taken. Understand the concept, okay. Choose library, support virtual threads. So Quasar or Zio, I didn't know about that, we'll have to check. Update your code to use virtual thread library. Replace instances of traditional threads creation with virtual thread creations. So something that we covered, just this execution context thing. And there is another ways to create it with a builder and thread dot run virtual or something like that. It takes runnable as an argument. And before it provided with better explanation. Let me just ask it again. Write the example of the code. Yeah, this used like advertisement at some point. It's like, what is this Quasar? I'm gonna check. Yeah, anyway, so if you want to explore and talk to the chat, so go ahead and do it. Sometimes it replies with nice answers. Yeah, that's not the perfect one. Let me just try one last thing and that's it. The ways to create virtual, it's in Java. Give me the code. Oh my god, it's still pushing on this Quasar library. That's the future of advertisement, right? Okay, another library. Very good. This is TypeScript. Why TypeScript? I said in Java. Just plain Java. No libraries. Okay. Random generator. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and go explore for yourself. And if you have some questions or comments, put them below. Okay, bye.